Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do some cap plastic skins. So to start off, you're going to need a piece of silicone like this, some baldies. This is the acetone based baldies, it has to be the acetone based one to do this. We're also going to use some oil paints. I'm going to do a burn version of this, so my colours represent that. Now you're also going to need to have some pre-thinned baldies, so this is 1 part baldies to 4 parts acetone, and then I've also got another mix which is 8 parts acetone to 1 part baldies, so really thinned down baldies, and that's what we're going to start with. So the first thing we want to do is just pop some onto our silicone slab and manipulate that around. I just use a brush, you don't need to be particularly careful about this, you don't need to airbrush it or anything like that. And then yeah, just manipulate that around. It will bead, it might look strange, don't worry about that, that's absolutely fine. We'll hit that with a hairdryer, and you want it to go nice and matte. It's really important that it goes matte before we move on to our next stage. So while that cap's just flashing off and drying, we're going to mix up some colours. So we're going to use the oil paints for that. I'm going to start just by making this burnt sienna colour. Now, as I mentioned, you can do this with any colours. I'm doing this to use on a burn makeup, but I've done it on zombies. You can make really cool zombie skins. You can even use it clear just to create texture. The colours on their own, sometimes like out straight out of the tube, might need a bit of adjusting. I usually put a bit of brown in with the sienna, same with the yellow. And because at the moment, as you can see there, it's very vibrant, so I want to knock that out a little bit. And then finally, it's just some black. The black is the most important one, that's what's going to make it look like a burn. So you can do this in any order, although I think it's best to do it with the black last. That's the most overpowering colour. And you just want to start drizzling this onto your silicone slab. This silicone slab is just some leftovers that was in the bottom of a bucket. I've done this on the back of moulds and things in the past. You just need a nice flat piece of silicone. So when you're drizzling the colours on, keep alternating through. You want them to start bleeding in and kind of mixing and doing all this weird stuff. That's what makes it look really organic. That's what really adds stuff to these burn makeups when I use this stuff. And I'm not really thinking about this too much. I'm just dripping it on, splashing it about, and letting it do its thing. Then you want to take a hairdryer. Now, what you can't see is I'm hitting this with air from quite far back. I'm minimising how much this is moving. What will happen is this will start to thicken up and almost create skin, and then we can come in closer. I went in a bit too close there and blasted it out, but that's fine. You can't really mess these up. So I've decided that was a little bit thick, so I'm just going to spread it around with the hairdryer a bit. And as the hairdryer is hitting it and heating it up, it's going to start to dry. It's going to dry too fast, and all those ripples and all that texture is going to really sort of help out as we're moving on. We don't want this to be clean. And once you've done that first layer and it's dried up enough, just go back in with your thinner mix, and you just want to put that on and reinforce those areas which haven't really got that much cap plastic. This kind of just sandwiches everything in and makes it a little bit more sturdy, which will help out when we get to the end and we want to take it off this silicone sheet. So then once you've got that dry, just go back in again, just drizzling those colours in, filling the edges, just leaving gaps, things like that, just keeping it all really organic and natural. The contrast in the colours is what's really going to help. You can blast it with hair dryers in between, and what you'll see is it's going to start to make these really, really cool textures. I did a job once and I was shown another way of doing this with Glatson by the makeup artist Adrian Rigby, and I then had another job after that where I wasn't able to use that method because it involves basically setting fire to the material. So this was something that I kind of messed around with as a version of that. And I find that what I like about these is you get a lot of flexibility with them as well. And once they're on the skin and stuck on, you can use acetone to blend them off and move them around and do all kinds of really cool things with it. So once you're happy with like a certain area, like I am here, I'm going to go back with just the black at the moment. And I'm going to kind of reinforce those areas. When I'm thinking of this going on to the makeup, these gaps and all these holes is going to show that raw, horrible flesh that you see in burns. So now the black elements are going to be the really charcoaly bits. Now, what you can also do is that, which is basically just making holes, hitting it with a hairdryer so it all folds up on itself. Then you can create some really, really nice thicker textures. This is great for like if you need to simulate burnt fabric and things that would have burnt and stuck to the skin. Those textures just look fantastic when they're applied. So you'll eventually get to a point when you think, right, okay, I'm happy with this. So what we want to do now is just one last reinforcing layer with that thin mix. That's just going to lock everything in, make it nice and sturdy. And as you can see, the layers underneath are dry enough that the colours aren't shifting. We don't want the colours to be blending at this point. And at the end, it should be like this. You should be able to touch it. It's got all that nice texture. So ideally you want to leave this overnight to dry, just so it's nice and tough. And then we're just going to powder it and start to peel it off. Now if it does have holes or breaks, don't worry about it. It's all going to add to the effect. You just want to give it a light dusting, release all the edges off, and then just carefully peel it up. If it does start to stick to itself, just use a little bit more powder. So there you've created your cat plastic sheet. It's ready to apply. As you can see, it's nice and flexible. Again, don't worry about those holes and stuff. It's, you're going to break it more. You're going to dissolve areas once it's on there to expose your nice, horrible raw skin. So just to show you, I'm going to just take some of the powder for a bit of IPA. That's what it's going to look like when it's applied to the skin. So I hope you guys found that helpful. I am going to show a video soon of me applying one of these, but like I say, just try it out, mess around with it, change colours up, just experiment and enjoy it. Thanks very much guys, see you on the next one.